And Mr. Chairman, we are live and you are welcome to begin at your own time frame.
Mr. President, I believe you kicked this off, don't you?
Yes, sir, I do. Good morning, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to the December meeting of the LCTCS Board of Supervisors. Thank you for joining us today. Before we begin, I will ask LCTCS Board Coordinator, Ms. Sarah Kleinpeter, to review a few points, given that we are holding a virtual meeting of the board and live streaming to YouTube. Ms. Kleinpeter?
Thank you, Dr. Sullivan. Members of the board, again, we are being streamed live online, so please be mindful of that. Those joining by remote access are asked to keep yourselves on mute during the meeting as much as possible. Please use the raise hand feature if you have a comment or a question. When recognized to speak, please unmute yourself, give it a few seconds before you make your comment, and then return to mute to avoid any background noise during the remainder of the meeting. If you have any trouble with your technology at any point, please call or text me. You may view board items via the links posted on the LCTCS website. We will conduct a roll call vote at the start of the meeting, and each motion will require a roll call vote for approval. Members, please state your name when you make a motion, and motions must be made via sound and not gesture. Public comments may be made today via an open conference call at 877-810-9415, access code 6499147#. That information is in the notice of meetings posted on the LCTCS website, www.lctcs.edu. Any public comments received will be read during the meeting by the board secretary or a designee. All public comments must include an agenda item number, a name, and a brief statement. Public comments are limited to 3 minutes per comment.
Okay, off to a good start. Thank you, Ms. Sarah. I'd like to call this meeting to order of the December 9th Board of Supervisors of the LCTCS system. Mr. Roman Hardy, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
All please stand. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States
of America,
and to
the republic for which it stands, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks, sir. Ms. Sarah, would you conduct a roll call, please?
I'll be happy to, Mr. Chairman. Chair Price.
Here.
Supervisor Mount.
here.
Supervisor Jackson is here, and he's on mute.
Present.
Thank you.
Present.
Supervisor Bradford.
Here.
Supervisor Carter. Hold on one second, Miss Helen.
Here.
Thank you. Supervisor Roman Hardy.
Here.
Supervisor Tim Hardy. Mr. Tim, are you still on with us? Hold on one second, you guys. He was with us and we will try and get him back. Supervisor McConduit, are you here? Supervisor Murphy?
Here.
Supervisor Potts is here and he's on mute and he's waving to us. So Mr. Potts, when we do our other roll call votes, you will have to come off of mute for us. Supervisor Salah?
Here.
Supervisor Smith is absent. Supervisor Spears is absent. Supervisor Spahn?
Here.
Supervisor Toops?
Here.
Supervisor Mitchell?
I'm here, Sarah.
Supervisor Turner? Supervisor Turner, were you able to join us? And then Supervisor Hardy, I see you have rejoined us and we are happy for that. Can you let us know that you are here for roll?
Tim, are you here?
Mr. Hardy, are you here?
Yes, I'm sorry. I have a
Fantastic.
problem connection, but I am back.
Fantastic. Mr. Chairman, we do have a quorum of the members present.
Very good. Thank you, Sarah. Members, you have received the agenda, and in accordance with the Louisiana Revised Statute 42-17-1, as presiding officer, I have determined that the matters on this agenda are considered critical or time sensitive and should not be delayed. At this time, I request a motion to approve the agenda and the consideration of the matters on it. I will ask Sarah to conduct a roll call of those in attendance.
So
Did we
moved.
have a motion by Ms. Mount and second,
I say,
Toops.
Mr. Toops. Ms. Helen, we'll let you move the next one. So we'll go through a roll call vote. Supervisor. Yes, you approve that motion. Supervisor.
Yes.
Supervisor Mount.
yes.
Supervisor Jackson.
Yes.
Supervisor Bradford.
yes,
Supervisor Carter.
Yes.
Supervisor Hardy Roman.
Yes.
Supervisor Hardy Tim.
Yes,
Supervisor Murphy.
Yes.
Supervisor Potts.
He's still muted.
Hold on, Mr. Potts, we got to get you off of mute so you can do a voice vote.
There
Mr.
you go.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir, we can hear you. And do you approve
Okay,
the
well,
motion on the floor?
yes.
Fantastic. Supervisor Salah,
Yes.
Supervisor Spahn,
Yes.
Supervisor Toops,
Yes.
and Supervisor Mitchell.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, please note for the record that the outcome of the vote ensured that more than 2/3 of those present voted affirmatively to adopt the agenda and consider the items on it.
Very good. Thank you, ma'am. Would request a motion now to approve the October 14th, 2020 meeting minutes as presented.
So move.
Motion by Ms.
Second.
Carter. And that second came from who? I'm sorry.
Stevie.
Thank you, Mr. Toops. We will have to do another roll call vote, ladies and gentlemen, so please bear with me. I promise we will have less today than we did in the past few weeks. Supervisor Price,
All right. Yes, ma'am.
Supervisor Mount,
yes,
Supervisor Jackson,
Yes.
Supervisor Bradford,
yes,
Supervisor Carter. Yes.
Yes.
Supervisor Roman Hardy,
Yes.
Supervisor Tim Hardy,
yes,
Supervisor Mickey Murphy,
Yes.
Supervisor Potts. Mr. Potts, we have to get you off of mute.
Yes.
Thank you.
Having
Supervisor,
problems with
that's okay. Supervisor Salah,
Yes.
Supervisor Spahn,
Yes.
Supervisor Toops,
Yes.
Supervisor Mitchell.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, there is a unanimous vote to approve the motion on the floor.
Great. Would expect nothing less. I guess it's time for my report. I will keep it brief. I'm sure everyone would be glad to hear that. The first item, I think you received information or will receive information regarding the advocacy meeting at the River Parishes Community College this Friday. I think it was sent by email along with the dates of the future campus meetings. More information for future dates will be sent out via email as it is available. Please make plans to attend a meeting in your area if you are able to do so. Second thing is ethics training reminder. We all know we have to be ethical. You've received messages, I'm sure, multiple messages leading up to today regarding your annual training. So for those of you who haven't, please complete the training no later than December 31st before 11:59 p.m. I'm sure most of us will be up celebrating at that time, the end of 2020. That does it for me. Mr. President, your turn.
Sir, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you to the board members. Just want to point out, I know that the chair and I have had this discussion a couple of times. We will do our best to minimize the number of voice votes going into the rest of today's meeting to try to make sure that we can focus on the business and not the process. So continue to try to get better in that regard. I just have a couple of items under the president's report today. The first is, I know we've talked about it before, but let me tell you, it doesn't happen every day. I want to acknowledge again the good work that has gone on at North Shore Technical Community College over the last decade. Chancellor Will Wainwright and his entire team deserve every bit of praise for having moved from COE accreditation to SACS accreditation amid building 2 new campuses, 3 new campuses, moving a main campus, budget cuts, and the thing that, as I pointed out to him this morning, that I'm not only proud of the work that they've done in terms of achieving accreditation, but you also have a leader in Will Wainwright who has produced other leaders throughout the system. I think that's incredibly important for us to make sure that there is a foundation of strong leadership of people who understand the mission of two-year colleges and are able to continue to advance our colleges and our system and our mission. Every bit of credit goes to Dr. Wainwright and his team. Hats off to each and every one of you. So encourage each of you, as you have a chance to talk to Will, give him your congratulations. Also want to point out that at yesterday's SACS meeting, Bossier Parish Community College had approval granted for a substantive change. That substantive change relates back to the ability to deliver multiple programs, academic programs, via distance. So when you move a program from more than 50% online to 100% online, as an example, SACS has to weigh in and approve. It's referred to as a substantive change. Not an easy hurdle to clear. The folks at Bossier Parish Community College were able to do that yesterday. A number of our colleges are going through that same gauntlet now. So congratulations to Dr. Bateman and his team around that accreditation accomplishment. The next item I have for you beyond accreditation is specific to Central Louisiana Technical Community College. Just this in the last month, Central Louisiana Technical Community College raised over $400 or nearly $420,000 in foundation donations from organizations like Hartner Medical Center, Autumn Leaves Nursing and Rehabilitation Center, LaSalle Economic Development, LaSalle Nursing Home, the Coughlin Saunders Foundation, ComCare Corporation, International Paper, Brookshire's, Haas 5-axis CNC Machining, Union Tank Car. I mean, that gives you a sense of the amount of work that is going on in the community to help sustain this college. We spent some time yesterday, and we'll hear from Joe in a few minutes, talking about the fiscal condition of a number of our colleges. Central is one of those that, as we know, has seen its share of challenges. But this level of work and going out into the community and having people invest in the organization, hats off to Jimmy Sawtell and his team for a heck of a job of going out and garnering that level of support. As far as the president's report, I'd like to forego any further items and turn to the board development session. Yesterday, we did a deep dive into the fiscal health index. Today, I would like to ask Joe Marine to really more so at a very high level, 30,000 foot level, review for you the fiscal health index data just as a matter of reading it into the record. For those of you who are not able to be with us yesterday, certainly feel free to ask questions, but I will now turn to Joe Marine and ask him to present to you the FY 2020 fiscal health index report.
Thank you, members of the board, and thank you, Sarah, for getting that posted. As obviously, as we all know, there are concerns about the state budget and those of our colleges, or the impact that will have on our colleges. This year alone, the LCTCS colleges have $16 million in CARES Act funding to help them make it through the year. Now, those dollars will be rolling off at the end of this fiscal year. So for fiscal year 22, aside from the whole uncertainty about what the impact will be statewide with CARES Act dollars, $1.3 billion in CARES Act funding rolling off of the state coffers, and the fiscal uncertainty of the economy of the state, the impact that the cancellation of Mardi Gras will have on the state coffers, let alone the New Orleans economy in the area. There's a lot of uncertainty out there. So obviously the focus continues to be even more so at a heightened level on the fiscal health of our colleges. This is a report that we do throughout the year. We've been doing it now for about 5 years of our colleges, primarily focusing at the beginning of each fiscal year on the amount of reserves that our colleges have going into the new fiscal year as a percent of their operating budget. And while there's necessarily no targeted dollars set aside in terms of what is adequate versus not, obviously given the great uncertainty that we currently have, it allows us to provide some basis to compare our colleges against themselves. And as Dr. Sullivan noted, Central continues to be a concern, as you notice in column B. That is the focal point right now in terms of what percent of reserves they have as a percent of their operating budget to make it through the year. Because as with all businesses and even your own personal homes, everybody needs some type of cash available to float expenses as they come in. And particularly for us, it's obviously things like payroll. More importantly, also things such as grants that may come in. We manage on behalf of the State Perkins grant, which is a $22 million grant that obviously not all of it goes to our colleges, but about a little less than half does. So $10 million that we need to have available to expend that cash and then seek reimbursement from the feds. So cash flow becomes a very, very important matter throughout the fiscal year, particularly given our business model where tuition revenues come in primarily for most of us, except for Northwest, primarily at 2 points in time, at the beginning of the fall semester and at the beginning of the spring semester. Northwest is the exception in that they have 8-week semesters throughout the year, so their cash flow is a little more evenly distributed than our other colleges. But be that as it may, as Dr. Sullivan mentioned, Central is the one college that we currently have been looking at and have concerns about as they continue to have struggles, financial struggles with raising the reserves for that college. As I stated yesterday, though, Central is probably a unique environment to operate in. It does not have, unlike our other colleges, major metropolitan populations where you can have a central synergy, so to speak, to help generate dollars to then float the operations of those smaller rural campuses. At Alexandria and Pineville, roughly, it's about a $45,000 metropolitan area, and the rest are just small communities spread from the coast of from the Mississippi River all the way down over to the Sabine River on the Texas border, parts in between with 8 campuses that they have to manage. So again, I just would like to point out Central remains the campus or the college that we have to focus on through the year and definitely going into fiscal year 22. I return it back to you, Dr. Sullivan.
Very good. Any questions of Joe from the Fiscal Health Index? All right, hearing none, Mr. Chairman, I'll turn it back to you.
I had a question, Mr. Sullivan.
Sure, go ahead.
Can because I was taking a few notes. Can you further explain column A and column B? I think you said which was the main focal points.
Right. So
Yeah,
column B represents the amount of reserves fund balance. This isn't strictly cash. This is cash along with accounts receivable. So I don't want to leave anybody with the impression that this is hard and fast cash in hand. This is cash and student receivables. But that's the amount of money, or the amount of, let me rephrase that, fund balance that colleges have available going into the new fiscal year as a percentage of their total budget.
Okay.
And it provides some ability to compare colleges amongst themselves in terms of who is fiscally healthy versus those who are not. Column A represents the change in that balance from the prior fiscal year. So to point out with Central, they ate into their reserves 37% over the course of last fiscal year, from last fiscal year to this July 1. And it provides some, we do this on a 3-year rolling average, but this is a snapshot for you as board members. They've been eating into their reserves over the course of those 3 years. So it gives you some longitudinal information in terms of where colleges are headed, whether they're growing their reserves or depleting their reserves. With that said, I would like to point out for South Louisiana Community College, because obviously that's the next largest number at 17%, they do have a healthy fund balance. And as such, prior to this, they took action to make some targeted investments in their IT infrastructure at the college, which is why you see that decrease in their fund balance. That was a planned expenditure for the college to help upgrade and beef up their networks and infrastructure for all the campuses throughout that college. So I just want to leave that impression or that information with you as members. But again, going back to Central, with a 3% fund balance as compared to their operating budget, they ate through a substantial amount of their prior fund balance in the prior fiscal year.
Supervisor Mitchell, does that help clarify for you?
Yes, sir. And so that includes like expenses that are maybe fixed as well.
Yes.
Yeah,
it does.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
And that's the challenge, is that especially with Central, with South Louisiana, that was a one-time expense that they incurred to purchase IT equipment. With Central, those are ongoing costs that they are using this fund balance to float their operations of their budget, and that's a concern.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Dr. Sullivan, I turn it back to you.
Very good, Mr. Chairman. We'll turn back to you to get into the business of the December 2020 meeting, and look forward to this new process that we've put together.
Me too. I think everybody else will.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Sullivan. Point of the chair's privilege, I ask each committee to review items H.1 through H.12 in succession and take up one vote for all those items once the review concludes. Is there any objection? Hearing none, I would think we would just proceed then. I think that's I think we got a good plan going here. At this point, I'd like to present the Committee of a Whole action items for consideration by the board. Number one, ratification of action taken at the November 3rd, 2020 Executive Committee meeting, which includes the approval of the meeting minutes from the July 22nd, 2020 LCTCS Board of Supervisors Executive Committee meeting, and B, the strategic partnership agreement between LCTCS Facilities Corp., LCTCS Board of Supervisors, and Anonymous Partner. Dr. Sullivan.
So as you recall, the executive committee has already taken action on this item. And I think we are now at a place where it's appropriate for us to be able to name that partner. The announcement will be forthcoming. There will be a significant announcement among the partners, particularly down in the New Orleans area. We have a major health system here in the state of Louisiana who is making the largest single donation that has ever been made to a community or technical college in the state of Louisiana. The numbers on this one rank above 20 million in order to support the build out of a healthcare facility at Delgado Community College. Could not be more proud of the work that has gone on there. I want to give a particular shout out to Lee Giorgio. This gentleman has worked across Delgado Community College and his role on the foundation board of our business partner to ensure that those two were connected in a way that students benefit, the local employer benefits, and ultimately the community as a whole benefits from better health care. So this item has already been approved by the executive committee, and is the recommendation is for ratification by the full board.
Okay, thank you, sir. Supervisor Mount, will you present the academic and student affairs action items?
All right, thank you. Academic and student affairs number 2 for board action revision to LCTC policy number 1.033, enrollment management.
Thank you, Supervisor Mount. Agenda item H2 is in response to the need to grow enrollment and the Chancellor's recommendation that the Chief Student Affairs Officers develop a comprehensive definition of enrollment management. The CSAOs in turn develop not only a comprehensive definition, which incorporates all of the students our colleges serve, credit, non-credit workforce, and adult education, but they also developed core principles, a code of student conduct for the implementation of a strategic enrollment management practices, and a requirement that all LCTCS colleges develop and implement 5-year strategic enrollment management plans. I will withhold my staff recommendation, correct? Or should I say it?
That's
Is
correct.
there a motion to approve?
So, sorry, point of order. Emily, if you would read the motion, we are not going to go we're not going to take a motion, but if you recommendation, and we will have one motion at the end of all of the items through item number 12. But we will read the recommendation, and then at the end of item 12, we'll have one motion for items 1 through 12.
Got you. Thank you, Ms. Klein-Peter. So Supervisor Mount, the staff recommends that the board approve the proposed revisions to LCTCS policy 1.033 entitled Strategic Enrollment Management.
Are there any questions or comments? All right, as Sarah has indicated, we'll vote all of these in one. So we'll go to item 3 for board action revision to LCTCS academic affairs policy.
Thank you, Supervisor Mount. Good morning, everybody. This is a review of policies through the Academic Affairs Unit involving Faculty Senate Presidents, Accreditation Liaisons, Student Affairs Officers Groups that have streamlined 43 policies to 21 in order to have a more efficient set of academic affairs policies. Staff recommends the board approve the attached revisions to LCTCS academic affairs policies.
All right, are there any questions or comments? Hearing none, we'll move to item 4 for board action revision to LCTCS work ready U policies.
This is another set of reviews of policies from 19 policies down to 6 that involve the work ready U functional committee as well as other committees in order to make these recommendations to you. Staff recommends the board approve the attached revisions to LCTCS work ready U policies.
All right, are there any questions or comments? Hearing none, we'll move on to item 5 for board review and advisement retirement of LCTCS policy number 2.001 and LCTCS policy number 2.002.
Thank you, Supervisor Mount. Item H5 is requesting to remove duplicative policies. In 2016, LCTCS policy 1.004 was revised to encompass a comprehensive general admissions policy, thus rendering policy 2.001 and 2.002 redundant. The staff recommends that the board accept for review and advisement the proposal to retire LCTCS policies 2.001 and 2.002.
Any questions or comments? On to item 6, report on strategic sustainability and growth initiative 1A, initiative to lessen financial burden for students.
Thank you. This is for board information. In 2017, the board instituted this initiative, the Strategic Sustainability and Growth Plan, and part of that included the reduction of the financial burden for students. As part of that initiative, we have embarked in offering open educational resources in addition as to reducing the cost of those materials and resources for students as one of the strategies to accomplish that. So over time, we've been able to save students an estimated $12 million in course materials due to these affordable learning initiatives that we have embarked on since the board instituted this in 2017. And this, again, this is for board information.
All right. Are there, I see Mr. Potts has a question. You want to unmute, Mr. Potts?
I'm trying to unmute. Is this the policy, Renee, that we take a portion of the tuition money we put, Emily, I think you brought that to us, right?
This is not that policy.
Ask one to help defray the cost of the tuition?
So
Is
this
that,
is not
the one we're talking about?
It is not, sir. This is the affordable learning policy dealing with the move from charging students for or for a large amount for textbooks and moving into more of affordable reduction of the textbook cost into using open education resources. What
Okay.
you're referring to, Supervisor Potts, I believe is the 5 for 6 initiative, which is different from this.
Thank you.
Sure thing.
Any other questions or comments? All right, that concludes my portion. Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Supervisor Mount. So I guess everybody's pretty pleased with the progress we're making. Well, picking up the pace a little bit. I'm kind of liking it myself. The Vinnie St. Block in Globo initiative, I guess we can call it that. How about that? Supervisor Jackson, will you present the facilities action items for consideration?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, everyone. Item 7, transfer of Act 360 funds from the Baton Rouge Community College Automotive Collision Training Center project and the Acadian Campus Renovation Project to use for signage at the Acadian and Central campuses.
Right. Yes, sir, Supervisor Jackson. This is an item that we have done twice before for Baton Rouge Community College for Act 360 projects, which we are allowed by legislative action to move funds from one project at the completion of that project, from one project to be used at other Act 360 projects as long as they are within the same college. And as such, BRCC is requesting that we transfer $74,000, I believe. Yes, $74,000 from the auto collision project, of which 39 they wish to allocate to the Acadian site and $35,000 to the Central site. So as such, staff recommends that the board authorize the transfer of funds from the Baton Rouge Community College BRCC Auto Collision Center project to the BRCC Acadian campus and Central campus projects. The Joint Legislative Committee on the Budget must be informed of the transfer of funds between projects prior to the final reallocation.
Thank you, Joe. Are there any questions or comments? Moving on to item 8, address correction on property donation to Nunez Community College from Sidney Torres IV.
Yes, sir. This is a technical correction to a prior action that was taken at the November 2019 meeting on this land donation. Apparently, the initial information we received had an address that when the legal research and title research was being done was found to be incorrect. So we are bringing this item simply to have it noted for the record prior to proceeding to the actual title work and commencement of this transfer. As such, staff recommends the board authorize and accept the donation of property from Sidney Torres IV through the Nunez Community College Foundation located at 3822 Paris Road in Chalmette for the use of Nunez Community College. Upon completion of final due diligence, the donation of this property must be recorded with the local clerk of courts and the state land office.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments on this item? Supervisor Potts?
I do. Yeah. Joe, when we receive a donation of property in that, who's responsible for the title search?
Normally,
is it us since we're receiving a donation, or it's up to the donor?
No, it's us. It's us that does it as the receiver.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments? Item 9, naming opportunities at River Parishes Community College.
And I'll ask Quentin, are you available? I see you are for this item.
I'm here, Joe. Supervisor Jackson, members of the board. Back in February of 2019, the board approved a facility use agreement between the United Way of St. Charles and River Parishes Community College to bring educational and workforce training and adult basic education services to the people of the St. Charles community. This today will bring that full circle. As such, staff recommends that the board approve of River Parishes Community College naming opportunities at its new St. Charles campus. With this approval, that campus will now be called River Parishes Community College, United Way St. Charles campus.
Thank you, Quentin. Any questions or comments on this item, on item 9? If not, Mr. Chairman, that ends the facilities report. And let me say, I'm liking this new format. So thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Supervisor Saleh, would you present the finance items, please, sir?
Yes, sir. The Finance Committee report for review and advertisement revisions to LCTCS policy 5.017, policy on foundations. Joe, would you help us?
Yes, sir. And I'll ask, I mean, obviously I will chime in when necessary, but since this is a foundation policy related to them, I will ask Quentin if you would take the item. And Q, I believe you're on mute.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Supervisor. And so essentially what we're wanting to do is just eliminate policies that are obsolete, that are current that are covered by current existing laws or that are no longer applicable. And so this is really just an opportunity for us to do some house cleaning measures. And so with that,
just to give some extra context. So members, this was a policy that was initially passed by the board in its early inception that required that all foundations have an annual financial report. And we have some foundations out there who have very minimal dollars. I want to say one has only $5,000. And by state law, those are not required to have a full financial report. They can have a management letter or other type of independent review, because obviously if you have a foundation with just a few dollars, the cost to have a firm come in and do a full-fledged review will just wipe out all the resources you have. You won't have a subsequent audit because you won't have any funds available. So we're just basically eliminating this policy because there is already state law that covers this issue. So Quentin.
With that, staff recommends that the board approve the list of LCTCS policies mentioned below for retirement as they are covered by current existing law or are no longer applicable as they address specific situations that are no longer applicable.
Quentin, I'm sorry, the recommendation is actually for review and advisement. The board accept for review and advisement the revisions to attached policy 5.017 LCTCS policy on foundations.
Thank you, Sarah.
You're welcome.
Got a little ahead of you.
The request was for item 10, and Quentin, you responded to item 11. Is that correct?
My apologies.
That's okay. It'll get approved at the end, I'm sure. So item 12 is Board of Regents College matched endowments.
Hold on one second, Mr. Stan. We do need to talk about item 11.
Yes.
So Joe and Quentin were talking about item 10. Quentin also referenced the obsolete policies, but we did not, in fact, read item 11 yet. So Joe, if you want to take item 11.
Correct, I will take care of this. So members, if you may recall, we being the board office staff and member institutions, we have reviewed a whole slew of policies that were created over the course of the LCTCS, some in its early inception that are no longer applicable either because of changes in federal or state law, or they're covered in other policies. So we brought these to you for review and advisement at our last meeting, and following our protocols for policy changes, we are bringing it to you now for formal board action. As such, staff recommends that the board approve the list of LCTCS policies mentioned below for retirement as they are covered by current existing law.
Hey, Joe, your audio just went out, so I'm going to go ahead and read the motion. The motion would be staff recommends that the board approve the list of LCTCS policies mentioned below for retirement as they are covered by current existing law or are no longer applicable as they are addressed in specific situations that are no longer applicable. That's the motion on the floor. And Joe, we have someone coming to help you with audio.
Thank you.
Is there any questions or comments? Hearing none, we'll go to item 12, Board of Regents College matched endowments.
Thank you, Supervisor. So annually, the Board of Regents has an opportunity for our foundations to go forward with trying to match private funds with state funds to create endowments as well as professorships. And so this opportunity right now, if approved by the Board of Regents, could bring in additional $1.7 million into our foundations in terms of assets. And then we would use those interest earned off of those funds to provide scholarships in a number of different areas. And so staff recommends that the Board of Regents approve the endowed scholarships and professorships below. These will include Baton Rouge Community College, Bossier Parish Community College, Central Louisiana Technical Community College, Fletcher, Louisiana Delta, North Shore, Nunez, River Parishes, and SLCC.
You heard the recommendation, and is there any questions or comments? Hearing none, that concludes my report, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, just not to delay things, but I certainly would like to ask Quentin. Quentin, can you give the board a sense of the total financial impact that we're talking about here? Our colleges raised a significant amount of money, and certainly the match will increase that. So can you mention the total numbers there?
Sure. So our colleges raised $900,000. If matched and approved, that would bring in an additional $800,000, which will give a total corpus of all collective of $1.7 million.
Excellent. Good work.
Absolutely.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to note on the record that Supervisor McConduit did join us during, I think, one of the very start of our items 1 through 12. And so welcome Supervisor McConduit, and note on the record because she will be included in the next motion that we have for a vote.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Okay, having heard all the previous items H1 through H12, I would recommend that the board approve all these agenda items.
Second.
Move.
So there's a motion by Mr. Jackson and a second by
Salath.
Mr. Salath. Thank you. And we will do a roll call vote. Supervisor Price.
Yes.
Supervisor Mount.
Yes.
Supervisor Jackson.
Yes.
Supervisor Bradford.
Yes.
Supervisor Carter.
Yes.
Supervisor Hardy Roman.
Yes.
Supervisor Hardy Tim.
Yes.
Supervisor McConduit.
Yes.
Supervisor Murphy.
Yes.
Supervisor Potts.
Yes.
Supervisor Salath.
Yes.
Supervisor Spahn.
Yes.
Supervisor Toops.
Yes.
Supervisor Mitchell.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That concludes the vote, and it was a unanimous in favor of.
Absolutely. Well, that's great. That worked out pretty good, huh?
I will note, you mentioned our great former supervisor, St. Blanc and state representative, and want to let you know that he was consulted and for his knowledge with Robert's Rules, a new thing or two about it. So thank you.
I'm sure he pitched in, and that's why we speaking of naming rights, we'll name it after him. Supervisor Tim Hardy, would you present the personnel agenda items for consideration?
Mr. Chairman, I would be so honored. Personnel, 13, for board action, LCTCS policy number 6.037, educational assistance policy. Who's gonna help me with that?
Yes, sir. This is Joe. Can you hear me, I guess, Sarah?
Yes.
Yes.
Good. So in essence, we brought this policy for review and advisement at the last meeting. And in a summary, what we are doing is we currently have 3 policies in our system that provide education assistance for employees, their dependents, and also for those employees who wish to further their education outside of the LCTCS at other colleges with getting advanced degrees. And while well-intentioned, and they were developed over the course of time, over a period of time, separate and apart from each other, the fact that we have 3 policies out there related to education assistance has in the past provided some challenges with employees going to the right policy to make sure that they are maximizing the benefits that we are offering as a system to our employees. So the HR directors of all the colleges got together and in essence are recommending keeping the policies, the benefits they provide as they are currently, but instead of having them in 3 separate policies, are proposing one policy with them 3 sections and put into that policy so that employees and their dependents and spouses can go to that one policy without having to understand or make sure that they are actually being directed to the right policy. So in essence, that's what we're doing, and staff recommends that the board approve the attached policy 6.037, educational assistance.
You have heard the recommendation. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Mount,
Second.
Bradford,
Is there a second?
and we'll do a roll call vote for this. Supervisor Price,
Yes.
Supervisor Mount,
Yes.
Supervisor Jackson,
Yes.
Supervisor Bradford,
Yes.
Supervisor Carter,
Yes.
Supervisor Roman Hardy,
Yes.
Supervisor Tim Hardy,
Yes.
Supervisor Erica McConduit, yes, Supervisor Murphy,
Yes.
Supervisor Potts,
Yes.
Supervisor Salah,
Yes. Yes.
Supervisor Spahn,
Yes.
Supervisor Toops,
Yes.
and Supervisor Mitchell.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. Next item on the agenda, I request a motion to enter into executive session to discuss items H.14, appointment of chancellor for Louisiana Delta Community College, H.15, appointment of chancellor for South Louisiana Community College, H.16, LCTCS chancellor contract recommendations, and H.17, LCTCS system president contract recommendations. At this time, Ms. Klein Peter, I request a roll call vote.
So we have a motion. Is there a first on the motion?
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Bradford, second by Ms. Carter. And we'll have a roll call vote. This is to vote yes or no to enter executive session. Supervisor Price,
Yes.
Supervisor Mount,
Yes.
Supervisor Jackson,
Yes.
Supervisor Bradford,
Yes.
Supervisor Carter,
Yes.
Supervisor Hardy Roman,
Yes.
Supervisor Hardy Tim,
Yes.
Supervisor McConduit, yes, Supervisor Murphy,
Yes.
Supervisor Potts,
Yes.
Supervisor Salah,
Yes.
Supervisor Spahn,
Yes.
Supervisor Toops,
Yes.
and Supervisor Mitchell.
Yes.
Thank you. The board is now in executive session as of 10:50 a.m. Board members, please consult the email that I sent yesterday at 11:18 or the calendar invitation I just sent, and exit out of the Zoom meeting and enter into the Microsoft meeting, and we will conduct the executive session there. Hello, everyone. We are slowly coming back in from executive session. And let me, before we start, make sure we get everybody back here. So Paul is here. Tari is here. Is Chip back on? And then Mr. Potts.
Hello, Sarah.
Fantastic. So it looks like we have everyone back here from executive session. And Mr. Chairman, I will call a roll call to reestablish the quorum of those members present. I'd like to note for the record that Mr. Potts had technical difficulties in joining the executive session, so he neither joined the executive session nor will be with us for the remainder of the meeting because of some technical difficulties. So we do have, I'm sorry.
Mr. Potts is here. To be clear,
We're gonna get the live video.
to be clear, he was able to join. And
Oh,
that was
fantastic.
After you were a part of the meeting, so.
Great. I'm so glad. Thank you, Mr. Potts. I'm happy that worked. Okay, so we will call roll right now to reestablish a quorum. Mr. Price,
Here, yes.
Ms. Mount,
Here.
Mr. Jackson,
Here.
Ms. Bradford,
Here.
Ms. Carter,
Here.
Mr. Hardy, Roman,
Here.
Mr. Hardy, Tim,
Here.
Ms. McConduit is here. We see you. We didn't hear you, but we see you. Mr. Murphy, Mr. Potts, Erica, sound is off. We can't hear you.
I'm here, but I'm
Fantastic. Mr.
I'm
Salat,
here.
Here.
What about
Mr.
here?
Spahn,
No.
Yes, I'm here.
Mr. Toops,
I am here.
Ms. Mitchell.
Here, Sarah.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. All members are present out of the executive session.
Very good. Stand by just a second, please.
We understood. Mr. Price is down.
Okay. Thank you, Sarah. I'd like to reconvene the meeting and state that no votes were taken and no consensus was reached during the executive session. And sorry about my phone ringing. I guess do I turn it back over to Supervisor Hardy or Yeah.
That's right.
Supervisor Hardy, please take the items.
Absolutely. Next item is appointment of Chancellor Louisiana Delta Community College. This is Dr. Sullivan.
Yes, so Joe Marine, who would typically read this recommendation, is having some technical difficulties, so I will jump in here. The recommendation reads as follows. Apologies. Staff recommends that the board, I'm sorry?
Dr. Sullivan, Joe has been able to join back with us if you would like him to read those recommendations.
Excellent, Joe. Go ahead.
Yes, sir. Staff recommends that the board appoint Dr. William Scott Rule as Chancellor of Louisiana Delta Community College with an employment contract effective January 1st, 2021 through June 30th of 2024. Staff further recommends a fair and equitable chancellor package consisting of an annual base salary of $190,000, a housing allowance of $20,000, a vehicle allowance of $5,000 or the use of a college vehicle, a civic organization allowance of $2,500, and an employer-sponsored deferred compensation package of $20,000.
You have heard the recommendation. Is there a motion?
So move.
I'm sorry, motion was by Mr. Jackson, is that correct?
Yes.
And a second by Mr. Salah. And we will have to do a roll call vote for that. Supervisor Price,
Yes.
Supervisor Mount,
Yes.
Supervisor Jackson,
Yes.
Supervisor Bradford,
Yes.
Supervisor Carter,
Yes.
Supervisor Hardy, Roman,
Yes.
Supervisor Hardy, M,
Yes.
Supervisor McConduit,
Yes.
Supervisor Murphy,
Yes.
Supervisor Potts, Mr. Potts. Do you approve this motion, Mr. Potts? Supervisor Salah,
Yes.
Supervisor Spawn,
Yes.
Supervisor Toops,
Yes, ma'am, I do.
Supervisor Mitchell.
Yes, ma'am.
That motion does approve. Mr. Potts, do you approve that motion?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we
Okay,
can.
I vote yes.
Thank you.
Very good. Mr. Chairman, if I may, I'd like to ask if Dr. Rule could join us and join me in congratulating Dr. Scott Rule, the next Chancellor of Louisiana Delta Community College. Dr. Rule?
Thank you, Mr. President, Mr. Chair, board members. I appreciate that. I'm really, really looking forward to this. Excited to get started. Eager to meet my team. It's one difficulty you have coming from out of the system. I've got to learn everybody's names and faces, but I'm eager to do that. My wife and I have been discussing this for quite some time to figure out how we get that transition done as quickly as possible. So really looking forward to meeting each one of you in person. I'm sorry we're having to do this through a virtual meeting right now, but I'll take it. We're all getting used to that. So I think this is a very exciting opportunity for me. I think the college is poised to go into the stratosphere, even in these challenging times, because Louisiana Delta has a very strong base right now. I think you've been talking about the fiscal state of all the colleges, and Louisiana Delta is in a decent position relative to its sister institutions, and I'm very, very pleased with that. We've got COVID, we've got other things that are very daunting, but I've been dealing with those already. So ready to tackle those, ready to really focus on what we do best, and that is workforce development, economic development, taking care of our faculty, our staff, our students, our business, industry, education partners. The list goes on. All of you as stakeholders, thank you so much for your faith in me and allowing me this opportunity. I'm looking forward to it.
Very good. Congratulations, Dr. Rule.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Chairman, I'll turn back to you for the next item.
I think it's on me, Dr. Sullivan. The next item is recommendation, appointment of South Louisiana Community College. Mr. Marine?
Yes, sir, Mr. Supervisor Hardy. After a review and a comprehensive search, we are recommending Dr. Vincent June as the Chancellor for South Louisiana Community College. As such, staff recommends the board appoint Dr. Vincent June as Chancellor of South Louisiana Community College with an employment contract effective December 9th, 2020 through June 30th, 2024. Staff further recommends a fair and equitable chancellor package consisting of an annual base salary of $183,250, a housing allowance of $20,000, a vehicle allowance of $5,000 or the use of a college vehicle, a civic organization allowance of $2,500, and an employer-sponsored deferred compensation package of $15,000.
You have heard the recommendation. Is there a motion?
So moved.
A motion by Ms. McConduit.
Second.
Second by Ms. Bradford. And we will do a roll call vote. Supervisor Price,
Yes.
Supervisor Mount,
Yes.
Supervisor Jackson,
Yes.
Supervisor Bradford,
Yes.
Supervisor Carter,
Yes.
Supervisor Roman Hardy,
Yes.
Supervisor Tim Hardy,
Yes.
Supervisor McConduit,
Yes.
Supervisor Murphy,
Yes.
Supervisor Potts,
Yes.
Supervisor Salah,
Yes.
Supervisor Spahn,
Yes.
Supervisor Toops.
Yes, Sarah.
Thank you. Supervisor Mitchell.
I approve, Sarah.
Thank you very much.
Motion carries. Dr. Sullivan?
Sorry, got to hit the mute button, right? Very good with that. No introduction needed, but let me turn it over to Dr. Vincent June and can be the first to congratulate him as the new permanent chancellor of South Louisiana Community College. Dr. June?
Thank you, Dr. Sullivan, and thank you, Board of Supervisors. Today is actually a bonus for me. I have been here at SOCC since the summer of 2016, and I really remember starting on this journey back in the fall of 2015, and I remember my prayer at that time was I asked God to send me where He felt He needed me the most. And so I arrived here at SOCC in the summer of 2016, and boy, it has been a very good ride as a Vice Chancellor for Student Services, and then subsequent Vice Chancellor for Academic and Student Affairs, and then most recently in June, Interim Chancellor here at SOCC. So this is a bonus for me. I can't think of another imaginable moment to be able to celebrate and to just thank the LCTCS Search Committee, the wonderful faculty and staff here, community stakeholders, just a gang of folks who really believe in me and believe in the value system and the leadership that I bring to the table. And I'm really excited to be able to continue on this journey and to take SOCC to the next level. This is a milestone moment as well for my family because they've watched me make significant contributions to higher education. I believe in the mission of higher education. I believe in the mission of the community college system. And certainly I believe in the mission of SOCC, and there's just so much more work to be done, even with the challenges that we have before us. I have a great team here. I don't have to start from scratch, so I get to leverage all of the successes that we have here. And I get to also work with some other wonderful chancellors who've been great since June, working directly with them. And so I only see upward mobility from this point forward. So thank you for this great opportunity. It's an opportunity that I embrace. It's an opportunity that I take very seriously. And I am extremely grateful to be able to continue on this journey. So thank you so much.
Very good. Thank you, Dr. June. Very proud of you. And thank you for your interim leadership and your willingness to step in at the college as well. You've done a phenomenal job, and I think that's in large part where the support and belief in your leadership abilities really put you over the top. I also want to, at this time, just publicly acknowledge the level of work and the quality of work that has gone into these two searches by a number of folks. Julie Golder with ACCT, Katie Waldrop, Gina Doucette, but I also really want to thank Supervisor Tim Hardy, who has chaired now these two searches, but has also chaired probably more searches than any other trustee in the country. He is as good at it as anybody in the business. Sir, I want to say thank you for everything that you have taught me along the way. Tim has a way of talking about our ability to look at people and to think of them in different roles. And he has shared with me a story, and it will stick with me for life, that causes us to pause every once in a while and pinch ourselves and think about what can be in terms of leadership. So Tim, hats off to you. Thank you so much for your work. Thank you for your dedication to this board and to this search process. Very much appreciated.
Thank you. I'm honored, truly honored.
All right, with that, Mr. Chairman, I'll turn it back to you for the final two items on your agenda.
I think it's still on me, number 16. LCTCS Chancellor contract recommendations. Is that Joe, you, or Dr. Sullivan?
And I believe I'll speak to that one. Based on the fact that the board took personnel action at the December 2019 board meeting for Chancellor contracts, there are no additional recommendations for Chancellor contracts for the December 2020 timeframe. This item is a placeholder that we have used in the past as we separated out the process of evaluation that took place in October and now contract recommendation in December. There is no recommendation for this item.
And the last of my items is number 17, LCTCS System President Contract Recommendation. Is that you, Mr. Chairman?
Yes. I believe, as we discussed, we annually discuss the president's contract recommendation in December. President Sullivan certainly received a great, outstanding performance review the past year, and we appreciate all the work he's done. He has just done an outstanding job under the most difficult circumstances. He also, but having said that, he made it clear that given the financial circumstances of our state and our system and our colleges at this time, he felt it was not appropriate to accept a salary increase at this time. He did ask the increase be deferred and available if needed, when things get better. I think on behalf of the board, I can thank Dr. Sullivan for his outstanding leadership for the system and for the state. And I believe every board member here and everybody that comes in contact with him knows that he does an outstanding job, and we are truly blessed to have him at the helm. So there's no action on that, but floor is open for comments.
Well, let me say this, as I close out my part of my place on the agenda. I've just got to say again, we are so very fortunate to serve side by side as board members. In my observations, there's not a single person on this board that doesn't care truly and deeply about its mission. To have someone like Dr. Sullivan lead us and to have other opportunities, as I personally know he does, to remain with us and is not even desirous that we do anything at this point, is in many ways unbelievable. I just want to close by saying the opportunity for me to have served as chair of search so many times is an honor, but even beyond that, was just being said by Mr. Chairman, it's a blessing. It's a blessing to see what we do to change lives. And every time I go to a commencement. I tell people this all the time when I'm speaker or whenever I attend. I don't consider myself to be, as we say on the other side of the track, a chump. But I well up. And there are times when I've shed tears when I see the look on the faces of folks whose lives changed right before our very eyes. So with that, I'll stop.
Okay, get it where I can adjourn.
Okay. Any other comments? Okay.
Well, I would,
Supervisor Hardy.
I would like to say, coming from a student member of the board and representing students on these platforms, I would like to say that we appreciate the work that each and every one of you do.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, ma'am.
Just to comment again to Monty, 5-star Sterling, the best I've ever worked with. And we can't do enough for you. So thank you for all you do 24/7. I know you do that. And we all just really appreciate you so much.
Thank you for that. Very much appreciated.
All right, Mr. Chairman, you know I can't pass this opportunity up to talk about Monty.
Go ahead.
You know, true leadership, and some of you have heard me say this, is the ability to keep your cool when everyone else around you is losing theirs. And he is the finest example of this. He was the finest example when he was here. He was the finest example when he left as like a gentleman, and he moved from site to site. And now this role that he's been in, dealing with the Capitol, dealing with, getting to watch him sit with the governor, who doesn't pull punches, and Monty has an answer and a great logical progression for everything he presents and puts in front of him. He makes us look really, really good. And Monty, for that, I thank you for being a friend and being a tremendous asset to this state. Thank you. And for what you do for every one of these students and people, for our businesses, for the people that we get to work with every day who are products of the system that you touched. I think you've touched lives you'll never know, probably till you get to heaven, and God's going to have a big list for you. So I too will stop like Tim. I'm not going to get all sappy, but thank you for what you're doing, and you know what you mean to all of us.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to say thank you to Monty also. I've worked with you for a long, long time in all of your positions, and you do a great job in all of them, an outstanding job.
Thank you, Miss Ellen.
Absolutely. Look, we'll all just ditto. We'll all just ditto because, you are just amazing for our system, for the colleges, and for the students, most importantly. So as has been said already, you represent us well, and we just could not be more pleased and proud to have you.
Thank you for that. Very much appreciated.
Mr. Chair, it's Tari Bradford, and so a lot has been said. Dr. Sullivan, you are the best from day one that I came on the board. You've been great. This board has been great. And, we are a group, in my opinion, that can show the state how to work together, and working together, we can make our state a better state. But sir, it's because of you and members of this board that this system and the students at our colleges do so well, because they know that we care and we're about making progress. So I just want to commend you for all your hard work, your dedication, and most of all, making time and taking time, not only for the board, but for the students. Thank you.
Thank you.
Monty, Mr. Chair, Monty, I'd just like to say on behalf of the literally tens and tens and tens of thousands of students whose lives you have impacted, thank you. I mean, very few people can say that they have impacted the lives and changed the lives of tens of thousands of students. You are truly one of the greatest leaders I've had the pleasure to work with in higher education. And not only what you do to the state, but your leadership nationally in the community college movement is recognized by all. So thank you. And thank your family for allowing us to and allowing you to do what you do for students.
Thank you, Chip. Very much appreciated. You guys are too kind.
Anybody else?
If you can hear me, Mr. Chair.
We hear you.
Can y'all hear me?
Yes, sir.
I stand by my previous comments, particularly in regard to what all of my other fellow supervisors have just said.
Yes, sir.
So remember, you have to write down somewhere, Chairman Price, that Tim Hardy actually not once, but agreed with me twice.
Twice.
So that is a new day for this board.
Making progress, guys.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
Dr. Sullivan, I will be sending Miss Katie an email since we haven't had any of our conversations in a little while, because I have some projects going on with the SGA, and I want to inform you about the nice things that we have going on at this time.
I look forward to it.
Stan, I believe you want to speak.
Monty, thank you so much for your friendship and your outstanding leadership. And the business and industry recognizes all that you've done, and we're blessed truly to have you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Anybody else? I know mine is extremely uncomfortable.
Mr. Chairman, it's time to move on, man.
You can't take much more of this, can you?
I just wonder if I could record this and let my wife listen to all this. She needs to hear more of this, right?
She would say, who are they talking about?
I'm kidding. No, genuinely, thank you guys. That means the world to me. I think all of you know that the motivation to do this job comes from exactly what you heard Tim Hardy say a few minutes ago, and that is about changing lives. So I wouldn't want to be anywhere else in this country, and I surely wouldn't want to work for any other board other than this one. You guys, you are the backbone of this organization in so many different ways, and you make it possible to be able to succeed at this job, because there are many jobs in higher education across this country that you cannot succeed in because you don't have the leadership of a board like this one. So thank you. Very much appreciated.
Yes, sir. Y'all make a note that he said he doesn't want to go anywhere. So let's make a mental note. All right. Mr. Hardy, are you through with your?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I have just finished.
All right. Thank you, sir. I would like to present now the consent agenda items for consideration by the board. Somebody's going to have to read a recommendation. Who would that be?
Yes, sir. I'm glad to do it. Staff recommends for the board that the board approve the consent agenda, which consists of items I-1 through I-3, as listed on your agenda.
And they don't name items.
So Ms. Helen, do you make that motion?
I sure do.
Fantastic. And is there a second on that?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Mitchell. And we'll do a quick roll call vote. Mr. Price?
Yes.
Ms. Mount?
Yes.
Mr. Jackson?
Yes.
Ms. Bradford?
Yes.
Ms. Carter?
Yes.
Mr. Hardy Roman?
Yes.
Mr. Hardy Tim?
Yes.
Ms. McConduit?
Yes.
Mr. Murphy?
Yes.
Mr. Potts?
Yes.
Mr. Salat?
Yes.
Thank you,
Yes.
Mr. Potts. Thank you, Mr. Salat. Mr. Spahn?
Yes.
Mr. Toops?
Yes.
Ms. Mitchell?
Yes, ma'am.
That motion is passed, Mr. Chairman.
Well, thank you, Sarah. Would like for y'all to review the updates and encourage all of you to review the information provided under updates, items 1 through 6. And is there any other business to come before this board? I would like to take this opportunity, hearing none, I would like to take this opportunity to wish everyone a very happy holiday and Merry Christmas, a Happy New Year, and I look forward to not being in Zoom meetings one day, maybe next year, and perhaps we can gather up and shake hands and hug and do the things that we used to do, which we don't want to lose that. I don't want to lose. It's been rough, but we'll get through it all. Are there any other announcements to come before the board?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to know there have been no requests for public comment via email.
Well, that's good to hear.
Mr. Chairman, if I may also, I want to make the board aware, we learned late last evening, early this morning, that our outside counsel, Mr. Leo Hamilton, lost his mother yesterday. And just encourage you, each one of you, to keep Leo and his entire family, Ms. Gwen and the group in your prayers. Leo's been with us as an organization for really since the beginning. He's part of the family, and I hate to see him walk through this, but certainly encourage you to keep him in your prayers.
Thank you, sir. Anything else? Last chance.
I move we adjourn.
We got a motion to adjourn. Is there a second? I think.
Thank you. That's been moved by Ms. Carter and second by Ms. I think.
In record time. Sarah, what is so funny? She can't tell us.
Do we need a roll call vote?
No, ma'am, we do not. It's
okay. Well, you can
Y'all have a very Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, everybody.